Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're heading to the Belgian coast, to the city of Ostend. It gets called Belgium's sunniest city. But once you look past that cheerful, modern resort vibe, you find this incredibly dense history of royal ambition, brutal warfare, and some seriously strange art.
That contrast is exactly what makes it so fascinating. I mean, it's a place where you have this glamorous old-world architecture right next to concrete bunkers from the Atlantic Wall.
Right.
And somehow the bizarre, masked world of an artist like James Ensor sets the stage, decades later, for the rebirth of an American soul icon.
And that's our mission today. How does one city hold all of that? A horrific 17th century siege, macabre 19th century art, and then it becomes the place where Marvin Gaye writes sexual healing. Okay, let's get into it. Where do we even begin with Ostend's history?
Well, the history is anything but quiet. It starts out as this little fishing village on an island, but its location made it strategically crucial. And the event that really puts it on the map is the Siege of Ostend.
Right, from 1601 to 1603. That's over 2 years?
2 full years. It's known as one of the most brutal sieges of the 80 Years' War. Just devastating for both sides.
I can't even imagine.
But when the Spanish finally took the city, the cost was so immense that it sort of cemented Ostend's importance. It showed everyone that this was a place worth fighting over.
Okay, so fast forward a couple hundred years, and the city's identity just completely flips. Belgium gets its independence, and suddenly its kings decide Ostend is going to be their playground.
It's a total transformation. It goes from a military outpost to being called the King of the Belgian coast. And that's largely thanks to King Leopold II.
He had a massive vision for the place.
Oh, absolutely. He commissions things like the Wellington Hippodrome, the giant Curaçao Casino, and probably the most famous, the Royal Galleries.
Those are the long covered walkways along the beach, right?
Exactly. They were built so the aristocracy could take their strolls by the sea, no matter the weather. It was all about creating this image of pure seaside glamour.
But that glamour has faded a bit. We looked into the Thermal Palace, that big Art Deco hotel from the 30s. It was damaged in World War II. And now renovating it is a huge problem.
It is, and that's the challenge with these grand old buildings. They're massive, they're incredibly expensive to upkeep, and restoring them properly is a huge architectural and financial hurdle. You risk losing that historical soul if you're not careful.
And that struggle with history isn't just about buildings. It's literally cast in bronze right on the promenade, the statue of King Leopold II.
Yeah, and that monument is complicated. It's been a site of protest for years. I think it was back in 2004. Activists cut a hand off one of the kneeling Congolese figures at the base of the statue.
A symbolic protest against the atrocities in the Congo Free State, the forced labor forever.
Exactly. And what's interesting is the city's response. They haven't removed it. The official line is that they take racism seriously, but the statue is a part of history.
So what does that do? It sort of forces you to confront this really dark colonial past while you're, trying to enjoy a day at the beach.
It does. It puts that tension right out in the open. And speaking of that weight of history, you can feel it even more just down the coast at Riverside.
The Atlantic Wall.
Yes, you can literally walk through the history of 20th century coastal defense there. The Germans built the first battery, the Aachen Battery, in World War I.
And then the Nazis came in during World War II and just massively expanded it.
They incorporated it right into Hitler's Atlantic Wall. They built the Salzwedel New Battery. And today you can explore something like over 60 bunkers, all connected by these tunnels. It's incredibly well preserved.
And that's because of a royal figure, interestingly enough. Prince Charles, the regent of Belgium after the war, he lived there.
He did, on the royal domain, and he made sure those structures weren't destroyed or filled in, which is what happened at so many other sites. He protected them, which allowed them to be restored later. It's this strange link. A royal preserving the remnants of a brutal war.
So even with all that conflict, the city never lost its connection to the sea.
Never. It's still a sea city at its heart. You can see it in the museum ships they have. There's the Mercator, this beautiful 3-masted schooner designed by a famous polar explorer, Adrien de Gerlache.
Which is just a cool detail on its own.
Right, and then you have the Amandine, which is a fishing trawler that shows you what life was like for fishermen in the 70s.
And they celebrate that with the Ostend at Anchor Festival. It brings in something like 200,000 people.
It's huge, and it connects that working history to the modern city, which of course also connects to the food. You can't go to Ostend and not have the shrimp croquettes.
Of course.
It's the perfect taste of the place. You get it at spots like Histoire d'Eau. It's the sea on a plate.
Okay, so that blending of worlds, the grit of the sea with the culture of the city, this seems like the perfect place to bring in James Ensor.
Ensor is the artistic soul of Ostend, absolutely. He was born there in 1860, and after a brief stint studying in Brussels, he came right back home. And he lived the rest of his very long life until 1949 above his mother and aunt's curiosity shop.
And I have to ask, what was a 19th century curiosity shop in Ostend actually like? We're not talking about typical souvenirs.
Not at all. Think weird, macabre even. It was filled with carnival masks, skeletons, seashells, taxidermy, and this environment, this constant exposure to the bizarre and the theatrical, it became his entire visual language.
So the masks and skeletons in his paintings, that was just his daily life.
It was what he saw every day. He used masks to explore identity, to make these satirical, grotesque paintings about society. He was always playing with who he was, too. You see it in his self-portraits.
Right, from the serious portrait of the artist at his easel to the much more playful one of him in a flowered hat.
Exactly. And so much of that comes from the Ostend Carnival, which happened every year on Shrove Tuesday. It was this chaotic time where society's rules were suspended and everyone was in disguise.
And he captured that in his painting, The Intrigue.
Perfectly. It shows this crowd of masked figures all crushed together, playing a real game called The Intrigue, where the whole point was to guess who was behind the mask. For Ensor, the mask wasn't just a costume, it was a symbol of society's hypocrisy.
You see that satirical edge so clearly in his work, The Bad Doctors.
That is a fantastic example. He's got these doctors who are supposed to be figures of authority, along with Grim Reaper, all treating a patient. He stages it like a ridiculous play, which makes this really grim subject seem silly instead of scary. He's undermining their authority.
And he made an etching of it a few years later. I found the detail about the image being reversed really interesting.
Yeah, that's just a natural part of the printmaking process. When you scratch an image onto a plate and then print it, the final image comes out as a mirror image, so the whole scene is flipped. It's a literal change in perspective, which is so perfect for an artist obsessed with hidden meanings.
And that artistic legacy, that love for the weird and the chaotic, it's still alive in Ostend today.
It absolutely is. You see it most vividly with the Crystal Ship Street Art Festival. The entire city has become this massive open-air gallery.
These are huge murals, not just small tags. We're talking over 50 of them. Like that giant pyramid of rodents by Roa, or Balsaletti's piece that's painted in negative.
Right, where you have to look at the photo negative on your phone to actually see the real image. It's taking Ensor's ideas of disguise and hidden identity and putting them right on the city's walls.
And then you have the Musee, the Modern Art Museum, with works by Ensor and other Belgian masters. The city really does embrace the strange.
It does, and you can't miss it. On the Heroes of the Sea Square, you have those massive bright red sculptures by Arne Quins.
The Rock Strangers.
The Rock Strangers, and they were designed specifically to be disruptive, to be weird, to make you stop and question your environment. The name itself, which can also mean stone wanderers, is perfect for a city that's always been about displacement and arrival.
Which feels like the perfect way to get to our final and maybe most surprising story. The story of Marvin Gaye.
It's an unbelievable piece of music history. In 1981, Marvin Gaye arrives in Ostend. And by all accounts, he's at his absolute lowest point.